to climb.
Hey, so welcome to our second episode of Millionaire Mindset or Mindset of a Millionaire on Condition for Success podcast. We're here joined with Amanda Wittenborn, which when I explained the concept of conditioning for success on the mind, she's like, well, I know something about that. So for all the viewers, can you share a bit on your story of the development of mindset that you had to go through of, I think you've had a few hurdles in life, right? And in business.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started building my business many years ago. Actually, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I've never had a real job. So this business, I started a version of it in 2011. So it's quite old. It's morphed and changed along the way over all those years. The current version of this business, where I sell physical products, I started about 9 years ago. And yeah, I've built it to multi-million dollar level. And really, I do believe that if you want to reach that level of a business, or the level of business you reach is directly in proportion to your willingness to grow as a person. And so I have done all sorts of work around mindset and personal development and personal growth over these past 9 years, especially, and overcoming hurdles and all the things that business owners deal with, from fear of failure, imposter syndrome, overcoming hurdles, you name it. I've been through pretty much every version of problem that an entrepreneur faces. And the thing that I've learned over everything else is the ones that make it versus the ones that don't is that they just keep going. They refuse to.
Now, do you define yourself as successful now, or do you still feel like it's the work in progress?
It depends on what your definition of success is. So I defined myself as successful long before my business was this size, long before I was making money with it. I actually defined myself as successful when I was barely making anything, because my goal was to be able to stay at home with my kids and raise them and not have to put them in daycare. And the mere fact that I was able to do that made me successful. So it really is just what your definition of success is. And it's funny because when you start digging in and asking people that question, sometimes it's not really a realistic definition that they have in their mind of what successful means. Um, a lot of times it is tied to money, but most of the time it shouldn't be, because money is not the only definition of success there is out there.
So success to you was spending time with your kids without having them to be in daycare.
Absolutely. That was what I wanted.
I think a lot of moms and dads as well can agree can would agree with you on that's their definition of success. And a lot of us focus on, oh, I want the money, but it's like, yeah, but let's be honest, the real reason you want the money is because you want the freedom to spend with your kids. You know,
Right. And if you're sacrificing all your time and freedom for money, then you're not getting what you really set out to get in the first place. So you think that, oh, if I had more money, then I would have whatever thing you're missing. But the truth is, you can have pretty much anything you want, and it doesn't always involve money. Most of the root things that we want as humans, we already have. It's that connection, it's the time with family, it's purposeful, meaningful daily actions and tasks, and consciously creating the life that we want to live. And you can do all of those things without involving money in them.
so in terms of conditioning your mind, if you remember back to like how you were at 18 years old, like tell us a bit about on that mindset that you had back then, or like you just 18, 19, you just graduated high school, the mindset that you had, was it going to be going to college, was it going to be the entrepreneur, was it going to be, job, and just like the basically the base of where your mind was at that point in life.
Yeah, so I actually have a fun little story about this. I do believe that people can learn how to be an entrepreneur, and they can learn the skills of entrepreneurship and business ownership. I also believe that some people are just naturally born that way. And I believe that I'm one of those people that was just naturally born an entrepreneur. So I'll take you all the way back to I was in third grade. So what, 8 or 9 years old. And my mom knew a lady who was a grandma in the neighborhood who taught piano lessons. And twice a week, she was watching her baby grandson, and it was interfering with her teaching piano lessons. And so she was looking for a mother's helper, a young girl to come and be with the baby for an hour or two while she taught piano lessons. And my mom said she was offering $1 an hour to come and watch the baby. Now, this was a long time ago. And even then, I looked at my mom and said, well, I'll do it, but only if it's $2 an hour. And so, way back then, when I was 8 years old, I knew that my time was very valuable. And growing up and through my teenage years, I I still held that belief. I was never interested in a minimum wage job. I always knew that my time was more valuable per hour than what a minimum wage job would offer. And so I always found ways to make more money than that. So I was a very successful babysitter all throughout high school. When I went to college, I started teaching private piano lessons, and I was also making way more than minimum wage, way more than a college student should be or could be making had they gotten an on-campus job. And so I've kind of just always been that way, and knowing that I can find ways to make more money per hour than an hourly job would give me. And I value my time and I value myself. And that was kind of what it came down to when deciding when I had my first son. When looking at the cost of daycare versus what I would be paid, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it must have been something like 80 or $100 that I would have netted had I gone out and got a job for 40 hours a week and paid daycare. The additional income would have brought in maybe 80 to $100. And so I thought, well, that's the goal because that's all I'm going to get if I go get a full-time job. And so my goal was, could I find a way to make 80 or $100 a week? And that was what allowed me to stay home with my kids. So not only did I find a way to make that money, but then I also had those 40 hours that I wasn't giving away. And then I was able to spend it with my kids too.
That's beautiful. How old are the kids now?
So my oldest is a sophomore in college. He's almost 20. And I have a son who just turned 16. And then my youngest is 11.
And is the 11-year-old babysitting for $2 an hour, and the 20-year-old starting his own business at, you know,
Yes, my 20-year-old is very entrepreneurial. He runs his own DJ business, and he also realizes that in one DJ gig, he can make the amount of money he would make working 40 hours in a week. And so he doesn't worry about going and getting a job for minimum wage. He gets himself some DJ gigs a couple times a month, and he's doing really well for himself there. So he's definitely entrepreneurial. He definitely shows a lot of similarities to me when I was in high school. The 11-year-old is not babysitting. He's the youngest of the family. So, if anything, I let him be a little younger, a little longer.
yeah, no, I always tell people let children be children for as long as they possibly can.
Yes.
Um, but I do look at, you mentioned that you believe anyone could be an entrepreneur, that some people are born with it, but others it's instilled into later. Do you feel that your kids had it born into them because of hereditary, or it's grown into them because of they saw mom always being an entrepreneur?
That's to be determined still. I think I definitely noticed entrepreneurial tendencies with my oldest son, the way he thinks about things, the way his mind works. They probably all have a little bit of a tendency. They've all tried to sell something or start their own little business along the way. They all talk about different business ideas, ways to improve things. I think that is one of the most kind of telltale signs I see in them is if we go someplace, they'll be like, "Oh, do you know how this could be so much better if they did this, 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 and this?" And at first I just thought, doesn't everybody think like that? And then I realized, no, they don't. That is just a unique skill or way of being, of always seeing potential in something, and all of my children do possess that. And we'll just have to see if entrepreneurship is for them or what. I mean, There's still time.
Yeah. We often come across people that, they're so caught up in job world, they're thinking, oh, they tell me I can't become an entrepreneur because I'm not like you. This is what I'm going to do. What would you tell them? Like, are they just going to be stuck in the job forever, or do they have that ability to switch from job mindset to entrepreneur mindset?
Yeah, that is definitely a mindset issue. I come across that a lot where people are like, well, I can't do it because I'm not like you. And I have a story about that too. A friend of mine, years ago, it was kind of a common thing you would see coming across Facebook. What are three adjectives you would use to describe me? And I would just roll my eyes because I'm like, describe yourself, right? You don't need all these other people describing you in three adjectives. I'll give you three adjectives about myself. Here they are, you know? Well, she reached out to me and she's like, I'm in a class and there's this challenge and I need to ask three people, tell me three things about me. And, you know, I agreed to do it because she was a friend. But that was, I thought it was the dumbest thing ever. And I said, I'll do it, but you have to do it for me too then. Like this will be, what it is. And I can't tell you all three of them, but I could tell you one of them. And one of them on her list of three for me was that I was fearless. And that was eye-opening for me because I am anything but fearless. I am full of fear all the time. I'm afraid every day for some reason or another. But to her, it looked like I just wasn't ever afraid of anything. And what it was is that I've learned to keep doing things and trying things even if I'm afraid. So feel the fear and do it anyway. But to her, it looked like there was no fear. And that was not correct. And so when she was, I guess, making up an excuse for why she couldn't be successful, it was easy for her to go, well, Amanda's fearless and that's why she's successful. I'm not fearless and that's why I can't be successful. And that is a huge mindset disconnect there. It's realizing that the people that you look up to are facing the same exact challenges that you're facing. They've just learned how to get through those challenges, and you're letting the challenge stop you. And that again goes back to my number one thing between who's successful in their business and who's not. And it's those people who are not willing to quit, who are willing to look at a problem like, well, I'm too afraid to put this out here and to figure out a way through it instead of letting that be the reason that stops them from doing something. People get stuck and stop at all sorts of places along the journey, and that's just one of them.
Is I forget who the quote was by, but it says something of, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the facing of fear and doing it anyway. Yeah. And so I see that a lot in you, where people think you're courageous and fearless, but it's like, no, it's not that I don't have fear, it's that I see the fear and I'm like, I'm going to do it anyway.
Right, right. And, part of that is digging into it a little bit. And what am I afraid of? And a lot of times it's fear of failure. That's a big one that most entrepreneurs are going through. What if I put this out there and nobody wants it? What if I do this and it bombs? And what I've learned and what I think contributes to the success I have in finding good products and figuring things out is I'm just willing to put something out there without any, I have no expectations of the outcome of what's going to happen when I try something new. Of course, you want things to work. We all want everything to work. But if I put something out there and it doesn't work, I immediately have information that I wouldn't have had I not tried it. And so it's just a way of getting information. You try something and then when it works, then oh, that worked. Let me keep doing that. Or it didn't work, let me change it and do something else. But you don't know to change it unless you try it. And so getting over a fear of failure is just reframing the way you're thinking about something. We're not looking for it to work or not work. We're looking for information. Is this going to work? What part of it is going to work? How can I make it better? And it's just trying thing after thing. And the faster you can try something new, the faster you can get the information you need to get to the thing that's going to work.
I love that. I've seen that in so many things that talk about, like, it's you know do something wrong, do something right, but just do it, because if you do nothing, then you're caught in indecision and then you're not getting any progress. So it was always like, make the mistake, correct the mistake, or make the decision and it's the right decision and keep moving forward.
Right.
I did want to touch on with the what just matters on to moms. A lot of mothers have said it's like, because I work with a lot of different parents and a lot of different people, but moms in particular will often tell me like, oh, I got to take care of the kids. I don't have time to take a risk right now. When I'm in more of a stable position, that's when I'll take the risk. But I'm sure you know more than anyone as far as with kids. It's like the longer you wait, next thing you know, the kids are 10, the kids are 20. It's like, wait, that was yesterday, they were 5. It's so what could you say to the moms that feel like they want to get started in entrepreneurship, but they're like holding off because they want to go, well, when I'm in a better position, when I have my ducks in a row, or when I'm more stable financially, then I'll get started in my business.
Yeah, that's another very, very common thing, and it's just procrastination, which is rooted in fear of failure. And, the thing is time is going to keep ticking by whether you do something or not. And you need to make time for things that matter to you. And moms especially need to make time for things, for dreams, and for things that are uniquely their own. We give so much of ourselves to our family, to our husbands, to our children, that a lot of moms find themselves getting lost in the mix there and forgetting, what do I like to do? Just if I had an afternoon free, because a free afternoon doesn't exist anymore for a long time when you have kids. And they forget what they like to do, what they found enjoyable. Maybe they don't have hobbies anymore. They abandon their hobbies. One of the things that I did long ago, I've been a singer my whole life. And for a while, when I was raising kids, you're exhausted. I get it. But I saw my son singing in an opera. So he was in fourth grade at the time. I'm sitting watching an opera. He was in the boy choir in the opera, and they had a high school choir there. And the look on the faces of those high schoolers was just sheer boredom. And I'm looking at them, I'm like, you don't even understand the opportunity you have right now to sing with orchestra in an opera. Like, this is such an amazing opportunity, and you're just shrugging your shoulders. I'm like, that's it. I can't be in the audience anymore. And I went and found a choir, and I joined a choir. And leaving for choir on Monday nights was the hardest thing I did every week. It never failed that that's when all the meltdowns would start. The dinner would get finished up, and it was time for me to step out the door, and this one's fighting with that one, and the baby's crying, and someone just threw up. I mean, it just never failed. But I would look at my husband and I'm like, this is the one thing I'm doing for me. And I would step out the door and I would go and I would sing and I would do something for me. And so my suggestion is to find something for yourself and to set aside some time. It's not selfish. In fact, one of the most important things you can do for your family is make sure that your cup is filled. Because when you're filling your own cup, you're the best version of yourself and you can be the best version for them. If we're running on empty, we are not doing anybody a service around us. We're not helpful. There's nothing extra to give. And so I've always prioritized my own self-care since that moment, since I joined the choir and just recognized that I was doing that. And I realized that when I started taking care of myself and I had things that were filling my soul, I was a better mom for them. And not only that, I have 3 sons. They see me doing things that I enjoy. They see me taking time for hobbies. They see me taking time for myself. And they're going to have wives one day that are going to want to do things for themselves. And it's not going to be out of the ordinary for them. They're going to go, oh, yeah, my mom did that. They don't have this like complete self-sacrificing mom that is there all the time. Like, it's a good thing. It's a good thing for the kids to see that everybody has likes, interests, hobbies, and they should all be pursued. Because if you're giving that example to your kids that nothing, you don't matter, right? That you're not taking care of yourself, your needs, your interests, your dreams don't matter, then they're going to start to think that that's their job too, and that they're going to perpetuate that cycle. So you have to take time to do things that matter for yourself.
You had every excuse and every reason to not go out and sing, but did it anyway because it's the. I do love that there's a quote that says it's like you can't pour into others from an empty bucket or an empty cup or bowl, or whatever you guys want to use. But it's one of those
Right.
things like you need to fill yourself, and so or for and I tell people go for fulfillment. As, but I do want to touch on one thing is like for those that don't know the business, because of course we can anybody can do a lot of different businesses, but because I remember you telling me when we first met about how you've had two different businesses because you had one business before that failed and then you built back up again. So it's like, how do you, because for anyone who's in that position right now, right, where they tried a business, it failed, they're flat down on their face, how did you build yourself back up?
Yeah, it's actually it's the same business that I lost overnight twice and brought it back. So I didn't switch businesses, which can be done. But for me, it's been the same business. And the first time it was lost overnight was due to a misunderstanding. I was selling on Etsy, and it was shortly after I had my third son. I was very sleep deprived mom of a newborn, and I got a copyright infringement notice, and I was like, "Oh, I have permission to do that. I'll look at it later." And a week went by, and I forgot to look at it, and it came through again, and they shut down the store. And so my Etsy shop was closed, and I'm banned for life. I didn't tell you this, but you are talking to an outlaw. And so that was the end of the Etsy store. And the change that ended up being made, of course, there's a whole story behind it, but ultimately the changes, I went from selling digital products to selling physical products. And that was what was the best change for my business because moms didn't want to have to print and cut out their products. They wanted it done for them. And physical products ended up selling way more than what was on Etsy. So looking back, I can see that that was one of the best things to ever happen to me because I don't think I ever would have made that change had that not happened. I would have just been happy where I was and it would have been fine. But that was a turning point for me to switch to physical products, which turned out to be bigger and way more amazing than I ever could have imagined for myself, way bigger than I ever dreamed. I certainly did not set out to create a business of this size. It happened. It happened along the way. And then the second time was when COVID hit because I have a party supply business. And so in 2020, when everything got shut down and there were no more parties, nobody needed my products. And so overnight sales were gone, dropped 95%. And at that time, my favorite part of this story is I did what everybody else did. I laid on the couch watching Tiger King. And, in the back of my mind, I kept running over like, how can I use what I have, this company I have, the skills that I have, what I know how to do, how can I use that to create something that people need even now when we're going through this and everything's shut down? And one of the first ideas I came up with was change of plans postcards because everybody was canceling weddings and events. And I created those and I popped them up on Facebook. And I have a lot of teacher friends because my background's in education. I had somebody say, "Could you just take the wording off the back of this postcard so I could send it to my students?" And I was like, "Oh, that's a great idea. I should make teacher postcards. I should make postcards for teachers to mail their students because they can't be together." And that was the right product at the right time. And it blew up, and I don't know, we were selling hundreds of packs of those a day. And within a month of doing it, I was like, I wonder if I could sell 1 million of these. I wonder if we could get 1 million postcards out to kids. And so that became the goal during COVID was could I get a postcard into 1 million kids' hands and brighten their day? And about 10 months after we started, we hit that goal. And I got 1 million postcards out into kids' hands across the entire United States during one of the worst things that they had ever been through, that teachers had ever gone through. And that was what saved my business at that time.
I go back on it's that setting goals, but it's like you were on a mission, and there's a quote by Theodore Roosevelt that says it's like do what you can with what you have where you are. I feel like you've done that each time, but I did want to. I mean, we're coming near the end, but I did want to rewind to that first time that everything failed and everything, and you had the tenacity and the perseverance to be like I'm just going to rebuild it anyway. And it's what was like, did you go through a dark period in between that? Like, was there, Etsy closed, my business is gone, all my money's gone, I don't know what I'm going to do? Or is it just, screw it, I'll just build back up?
Oh
What,
no, it was horrible. That was absolutely horrible. Definitely a dark time. Yeah. Uh,
How do you get through that? How do people like how can as the last words of advice, it's like how can people who are facing that dark time get through it because they're just thinking, oh, this is it, it's over, my life's over, world's ending. Like
yeah.
how to help them see light at the end of the tunnel, basically.
Yeah, I think time, it did take some time. I did just start doing things that I had done before. I started teaching some piano lessons again. I started, at the time I was designing digital scrapbook kits, so I went back to that and just was working on those things. Um, for me, it was that voice in your head that just was kind of nagging. It was just a nagging, you're supposed to be making party supplies. And I don't know how to make this work. I don't know how to do this. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to sell it. And it just kept nagging and nagging and nagging. And I ended up working for one of my competitors at the time. She was looking for a designer. And so I started designing party supplies for her. And that was actually one of the best relationships that I had. We learned a lot from each other. And starting to design the party supplies again was kind of like that little spark that I needed. Like, this is really what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm going to figure it out. But that took probably 9 months or so of just kind of
Oof.
like down in the dumps, depression, darkness. Um, but starting to design for her, it lit a little spark back in me, and it made me go, no, you're meant to do this. And so if something has failed, but you're still feeling the calling to it, then it's not over. If you still feel like it's for you, then it is. If I would have had that happen and felt like, I don't know if I miss it, that was a hassle. I didn't love doing that. Then I might have just started something new. I might have found something else that I was kind of passionate about or I cared about. But it was the fact that I really felt like that was what I was supposed to be doing, that I was meant to be making party supplies. So I feel like if you still feel called to whatever has crashed and burned, it's not over. It's a change. It's like a reorganization directing you into a better position, a better way. The universe works in very mysterious ways, and sometimes those ways are very, very painful, but we wouldn't if we were not some of us just need that in order to change the way we're doing things and in order to listen. And so a lot of times those catastrophes, I'm sure this would be a wonderful podcast to put out there to people is what catastrophe have you been through that turned out to be one of the best things that's ever happened to you? Most people have a story like that. Most of us years later can look back and tell you why that was such a great thing. Not
Well,
while you're going through it.
we
Not
might have
while
to put that into
you're
the next one then, as
yeah.
far as like the what's your catastrophe. But well, guys, I want to thank Amanda for being on the show today. And I look at the story as find what your passion is, go through it. If you're facing dark times, find that spark and keep going. I tell people, discover yourself, make your next chapter start here, and be bold to being in your dreams. So this has been another episode of Condition for Success and the Mindset of a Millionaire. Thank you so much.
Start the clock, the race is on. Every moment builds a